Most people assume innovation belongs to startups, to places unburdened by legacy. But every once in a while, someone inside the system redraws what's possible.
I always wondered when is India going to have an aesthetically superior, technologically advanced, speedier, modern train. Why is the recall of an Indian Railways passenger train remains the same? If you close your eyes, the same image of a box-type train. We said we want to build something which will run at 180 kilometers per hour. We'll have no locomotive. We'll have two cabs. All the equipment will be placed below the board. Everything above is for passengers. We were only immersed in debates for 25 years. I had to go and beg the chairman. We said, give me a sanction for two trains. If it works fine, we'll bask in that glory for the train which the nation is waiting for 25, 30 years. But if it doesn't work, then they will need a scapegoat. I said that I'm the oldest. I'm retiring in December 18. By the time I retire, and the train doesn't work, I can be the scapegoat. If you go to a recognized rolling stock manufacturer of the world like Siemens or Alstom and want to build a new train, they say, fine, but we will take 36 to 42 months. I said, we will deliver the train before I retire. That gives you 21 months. And to make sure that everyone remembers that the train is going out in calendar year 2018, I said that we'll call it Train 18. Train which will be out in 2018.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the premiere of Career Shifts Podcast Season 3. This season, we explore a theme that feels very relevant for 2026. That is borderless reinvention. Not reinvention in the dramatic sense, walk away from everything else, but reinvention from within. Across roles, across systems, across mental models and boundaries. And today's conversation captures that in a very real way. Let me begin with a personal story. My grandfather, my mom's dad, was a locomotive inspector in the Indian Railways. He lived the world of discipline, responsibility, quiet pride of keeping something vast moving safely. Unfortunately, he passed away in 1971. My mother followed, took up the job in the railways in the same year, and worked straight for 35 years, from 1971 to 2006. So I grew up around conversations of duty, structure, and an institution that was more than an employer. It was an ecosystem, and it continues to be that. So when I speak about Indian Railways, I'm not speaking about it as an outsider. There's a lineage here, which is why the story matters to me the most. Most people assume innovation belongs to startups, to new systems, to places unburdened by legacy. But every once in a while, someone inside the system redraws what's possible. That's where I would like to welcome Dr. Sudhanshu Mani to the show. He is someone who spent 38 years in Indian Railways, operations, projects, research, international assignments, and then as a general manager of the integral coach factory in Chennai, he led the development of what became Train 18, designed and built in India, delivered in record time, that too in a fraction of an expected cost. Today, we know the same train as Vande Bharat Express, also with sleeper variants, which is expanding India's mobility landscape. This, for me, is not merely an engineering milestone. It's reinvention without exit. It's transformation without abandoning the institution. It's leadership that works within constraints and still moves boundaries. I'm also very curious is how Dr. Mani built his 30 plus years into system, what shifts internally that allowed him to challenge it, and what conviction looked like when caution was the default setting. So let's begin the show. Dr. Mani, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Namaskar. Thank you for inviting me.
It's indeed a pleasure to have you on the show. We have been beneficiaries of what is called as a transformation in the Indian Railways in many ways. And the inspiration that we all take is that we can proudly say that this is a world class ecosystem that we are seeing unfolding every single day. The title of this podcast is Career Shifts. I believe strongly that careers are here in 2026, shifting, evolving, and people are trying to figure out what does it mean for them in the world of AI, in the world of systemic disruption. But I would like to start this conversation with your career, how it began, and the journey to the trainee team story as well.
So I come from a railway family. My father was in railways, and I liked railways, loved railways. But after doing my intermediate, which is like plus two today, from Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh, taking you back to 1975. So career choices were rather limited. So you went either to engineering or medical, or if you're not good in studies, other careers. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I joined IIT Kanpur for 3-4 days, didn't get a good branch, so got a better branch, electrical, in what is now IIT Roorkee. And later I got selected in a scheme which is now closed, but used to be called SCRA, where Indian Railways employed intermediate passed candidates, trained them for 4 years in railway engineering, mechanical engineering largely, and absorbed them as assistant mechanical engineers. So it appeared very inviting because there was a fat stipend also to go with it. I joined that, and then later joined railways and worked for railways all my life. I loved every minute of it, in spite of all the criticism that I do. And I retired from Integral Coach Factory in December of 2018.
Wonderful. It has been a long tenure at railways. We're talking about careers like this in a world where careers are often counted in months. Here we're talking about decades. We're talking about 3 decades or 4 decades in the system, Dr. Mani. What changed in you that made you willing to challenge rather instead of simply working within it? I'm sure the journey towards Train 18 wasn't something that happened just in a few days. It would have been systemic. It would have kind of built on over years.
So the government job affords you the comfort of barely doing what is expected of you. Pushing files is one of them. And meeting the expectations of the organization, which also descends from the leadership, which is not at all transformational or not at all anything that out of the box. But at the same time, while it gives you that comfort, and many people choose to live in that comfort, across my career and over time, I did meet many leaders, not one, many, who were there to deliver. And I learned from them the meaning of delivery. Tried in my own way to follow that to the extent possible within the bureaucracy and red tape. And as you progressed, you learned more as to, in spite of the system, how things can be delivered. And you pay back for the wonderful job given to you, right? I don't praise railways as such. I criticize what's happening. That's because you can actually truly criticize an organization you love and see what's wrong. So as I said, I learned it from leaders, all about leadership and all about within the constraint delivering whatever best is possible. And so this was the lesson I learned all my life, all my career, and tried to do whatever best I could within the constraints.
When we talk about Vande Bharat today, it is often seen with a lot of pride, a lot of glory in the way the train looks, in the train functions, in the train, the way it does its job. It's perhaps one of the most expensive modes of transportation in the railways parlance. But it is what we would call as that it's a moment of arrival for Indian Railways. We're talking about an institution which is more than 150 years old. It brought its legacy from not just the roots in India, but even from Britishers. And there is a lot that went into how the tracks were laid, how the speeds were measured. There is a whole land story that we struggle with in terms of the encroachment by private players, which in every sense it stops you from performing. So one, there is an internal institutional structural issue which doesn't allow you to perform, which you just spoke about. One, there is also an entire external issue that we struggle with. How was that journey? Like, what challenges did you face?
We have to start with what the Britishers instituted. It was an instrument for control, strategy, of course, transportation and movement, and subjugation. An entire subcontinent had to be kept under their thumbs, and railways were going to play a part in it, which would have been very difficult without railways. What they didn't realize and plan, perhaps, was how it also connected people, right? And how Gandhiji used traveling in lower classes to carry the message of connection, freedom, and awakening people towards the value of liberty and freedom. That's the role Indian Railways, we proudly say, played in the freedom of the country. And then we achieved freedom, a nascent nation, trying to look for its rightful place in global arena, emerging from the shadows of its tumultuous past and good past, bad past, whatever. So it became an engine of growth to begin with, growth and development. Somewhere along the way, more perhaps in 21st century, railways started losing its way and giving way to road, and now, of course, increasingly air and so on. But those are natural challenges which had to be tackled and are being tackled to some extent, not enough. Now, of course, Britishers set up this system with a certain discipline which was required to run such a large network. Yeah. Certain systems which hold good even today and have definitely helped Indian Railways to be together and keep delivering. This was the good part. The bad part was, of course, the feudal mindset of administration, the walls, barriers, propriety, protocol between those who administered and those who were administered. And that's something which was not shed by us in 1947. It has not been shed even today.
Even today.
That continues. So, and the good part of rules and regulation was to keep railways safe, to keep moving. And they built system, and the same system were perfected by us to lead us to inaction. We didn't change the systems with changing scenario and so on. So in brief, there were certain things good which even today work for railways, but there was a lot which was not good and which we have not been able to abandon even today. Every single person in this world, barring a few exceptions, they want to do something. They want to deliver. The system then gradually suppresses them to a situation where they think that not doing is perhaps better than trying to do something. That's a stark truth even today. But as I said, there were leaders. The best known railwayman is Dr. Sridharan. And their stories within the system would always inspire you to do things. So, as they say, I mean, you have to, there's no good, it's all right to have concerns and curse the darkness all around you, but it's always good, apart from these concerns, to try to light a little candle of your own.
What you were saying just took me back to the talk that I did in TEDx last year, around how careers are no longer marble statues, but they are Lego blocks, is what the title of the talk was. And where I had drawn parallels of the thought process that we started living with in the independent India of, train people for administration. So you can be better clerks, you're rewarded for delivery, you're rewarded for administration, but not for creativity. So innovation and creativity is something that was looked down upon in many ways, and that probably came in, and we inherited that from a colonial perspective of this is how administrators have to function. Unfortunately, a lot of people took that over into corporate careers as well. So if you look at how corporate India functions, even now, there are people who speak about staying in an organization for 25, 30 years. Um, well, maybe that's the best thing that they could do for themselves, but it comes at the cost of not being able to live up to the potential. You're not really thinking harder in creative ways or innovative ways.
Yeah.
And how today's career, which is disrupted by AI quite a lot, or technological interventions, one needs to start thinking very differently, and probably Gen Z's are doing that very effectively today than some of the earlier generations that we are all part of. We are trained to do well in our roles to maintain status quo. But I'm sure this journey, especially the one with Vande Bharat, was not without challenges, perhaps, because it was you literally challenging the whole construct of how the locomotives were done, what speed looked like, what customer experience looked like, what comfort looked like in trains. What hardships did you face?
One thing that always bothered me, even before I joined railways, is in spite of such a large network and such a large group of good engineers, why is the recall of an Indian Railways passenger train remains the same? I mean, we brought in some AC coaches, which were not there earlier, some German technology. But if you close your eyes, the recall of an Indian Railways trains since independence, I mean, you're not even going before that. Those areas, that era used to have wooden body coaches and all that. But the recall will place in your eyes the same image of a box type train. So I always wondered when is India going to have, in spite of such network and engineers, an aesthetically superior, technologically advanced, speedier, modern train. So that was both a dream and an angst. Encountered various situations throughout my career. Had my own views, which were perhaps not very befitting, and so on. I always felt that there was this departmental rivalry as to whether we should have what is called a train set. Train set means no locomotive. Everything is under the board. Everything above the board is for passenger amenities. You have only two cabs in the end. Aerodynamically profiled. There's no locomotive. The last coach, which has the cab as well as other cab, they're profiled so well aesthetically and technologically. But there was this departmental rivalry as to this, neither a locomotive nor a coach. So there was always a debate. For last 35, 40 years, that's the trend world over in this speed range, 160 and above, to build what is called train sets. But we were only immersed in debates for 25 years. Now, it was an angst and a dream, and when I was posted as the general manager of Integral Coach Factory, this was to some extent by choice, because less than 5% people get a chance to become general manager, which is like an institution in railways. In a way, the buck stops there. On railways, buck never stops anywhere, but in a way, the buck stops there.
Yeah.
And people, all their lives, they curse their jobs, their boss, and so on, say, when I become GM, I'll do this, I'll do that. By the time they reach there, they've forgotten how to do anything. You're getting thrown up as GM or above is nothing to do with your ability. It's all about your date of birth. So my date of birth, fortunately, was in a slot which assured that I would become a general manager. It was offered, and people like to go to zones, which is like a domain.
Yeah,
it's a fiefdom. Like
divisions
you're
and
sitting in
zones.
Bangalore, so Southwestern Railway, Hubli headquartered, practically all of Karnataka, British Tamil Nadu, and so on. But there are factories also, 5 factories which are headed by a general manager. Same grade, everything is same, but the domain is much smaller. So fortunately, Integral Coach Factory was vacant. Mr. A.K. Mittal, Chairman Railway, I had worked with him. He was GM of, and I was DRM of Bangalore. So he knew me, and when I reached him, uh, just as my posting was to be decided, he must have thought that I have come looking for a zonal posting, but I requested to be posted in Integral Coach Factory. So I got posted at Integral Coach Factory. This was August first week of 2016.
Okay.
When I land there, then I still maintain the best possible technical staff within the constraints of technology transfer and so on within railways was available at ICF. That was fortune number one. Staff, officers, manufacturing staff, design staff, and so on. Then number two, better than even more than what I just said was many of them had gone through multiple transfer of technology regime, had learned and so on, but they had this angst as well of doing something more than what they were doing, more of the same, which was to think out of the box and design a train, manufacture a train. So that was fortune number two, because not only this was a good, best team possible, but they also had this passion within them to do something about it, perhaps more than me. So that was an alignment with what I hoped to do. So this was half the battle won. The challenges after that, I'll not get into the technical challenges because, as I said, these staff were capable enough. They were there to challenge themselves. They were not cats whiskers to do the best in the world, but they could challenge to where we were, to 20, 30, 40% over and above what where we were. They were ready to challenge themselves and build this train set. The boundary was very clear. We said we want to build something which will run at 180 kilometers per hour. We'll have no locomotive. We'll have two cabs. In the end, all the equipment will be placed below the board. Everything above is for passengers. So below the board in a manner that the Shatabdi Rajdhanis have a power car which makes a lot of noise. If you travel by train, you would know that. So it's quite ugly and disturbing. So place it on the board. There's no noise. There'll be no rickety vestibule that we have in our trains, where you going from one coach to another, it's rickety enough to scare away older people and children. So instead, we'll have a sealed gangway, so you can have passage from one end of the train to the other, 16 coaches, without realizing you're crossing a coach. These kind of things, and pack a lot of power, because you are now going to place all the equipment all over the train. It's not like two locomotives. So you have a lot of space to pack equipment, to really put a lot of power, so it can have faster acceleration and so on. Our staff were already design staff, and later manufacturing were well geared to do. And industry in India had grown much better than railways themselves, because they don't have these bureaucratic shackles. So the equipment required could all be designed and sourced in India. It was already there. Not my doing. It was there to be tapped. So I had the fortune, alignment of dream and angst, the opportunity. Integral Coach Factory has built today nearly 80,000 coaches. That time it was 50,000 plus. And it was still at that number the largest factory in the world of having turned out the maximum number of coaches from one premises. More of the same, but in terms of numbers. So there was this opportunity, this platform. So that was the fortune. And then there were, as you talk about challenges, one was, so to give credit to this government, they have empowered GMs in terms of financial powers. GMs can decide anything, 1,000, 2,000 crores. Nothing goes to the ministry, which is not true for so many other ministries. The team had chosen itself, not based on hierarchy, but based on fire in the belly, which was my job to detect and use and harness. So the first thing was, you may be a powerful GM, you can do anything, but this is a new animal. It has no locomotive to it, as I described. And to build this, you need a sanction from the board, the ministry. That was challenge number one. I thought it was nothing great. As a leader, I would be able to do it, but I was running into a lot of cynicism and skepticism. People thought we were only trying to build hype and maybe seeking publicity, whatever. who won't be able to do it will come in way of import as well, and all that kind of discourses and narratives. So in the end, I had to go and beg the chairman. Begging him would get me the sanction, and I go back to my people with the pride that here is the sanction, start work. So I fell at the feet of the chairman. People ask me literally or figuratively. I said, God bless his soul, he's no more, the same chairman. I tell people, if you're so curious, you have to go up and find out. Nevertheless, killing that vanity, which some of you is going to kill in any case, and falling at his feet was something which instilled pride in me and my team. And because we did, it worked, we had the sanctions. So he said, give me a sanction for 2 trains. You import whatever you want. Who am I to stop you? But we will build it at 1/3 the cost of your import. And we will build it quickly so that you gentlemen are retiring in July 2018. We are in March 17 now. We will invite you to cut the ribbons. So anyway, these things worked and we got the sanction. That was challenge number 1, which was overcome. Very quickly, challenge number 2 is always about we are going to do it for the first time, this kind of train. If it works, fine. We'll bask in that glory for the train which the nation is waiting for 25, 30 years. But if it doesn't work, then they will need a scapegoat. So I said that which better scapegoat can you find? I'm the oldest. I'm retiring in December 18. By the time I retire and the train doesn't work, I can be the scapegoat. What will they do to a retired person? These are simple things which, in a leadership situation like that, really work wonders. It's always how you define success. So you define success, you work on something, there is an outcome of value, that's called success. Unfortunately, that's not true. If you want to achieve something greater than what you are capable of, greater than what you are otherwise capable of. Because if you work on something with complete commitment, passion, hard work, you burn your midnight oil, you give your life to it, then you cannot do more. You are in a way already successful. If you are being true to yourself, as Shakespeare has said, to thine own yourself be true, lines from Hamlet. So, if you are sure you have done that, you have actually succeeded. The failures may take place, you may not succeed in actual terms, but with that kind of passion, success cannot be far away. So, in a situation where you're leading excited people who have the capability but who have to challenge themselves, these things matter. These things matter, and that helped. That was overcoming their doubts. Shakespeare again has said, our doubts are traitors which make us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. Fear of an outcome of value prevents us from attempting. If we don't have that fear and give our best, things will get done. 1 failure, 2 failures, but eventual success. To start from concept to design, engineer, manufacture, test, validate, prove out, turn out. It's a serial process. It cannot be done parallelly. If you go to a recognized rolling stock manufacturer of the world like Siemens or Alstom, you want to build a new train, you say this is the train we want, they say fine, but we will take 36 to 42 months doing it to turn out a prototype. That's the norm. So the team said that we are in April 17 and if we go like this, you are retiring in December 18. When you retire, we would have completed the drawing work, design work, but the new leader may say, why are you purchasing this trouble? Who asked you? Go do more of the same. So not much water has flown down the Coombe River. So abandon this, do more of the same. So where would we be? Where would our hard work, our passion be? So I said, there's only one solution, which here in Chennai, people like you can solve, as you have solved all over the world, shown all over the world. And that is that Indians can burn their midnight oil. You can really work hard and give everything. So we'll work from 6 a.m. in the morning to whatever, late at night, engaging with consultants, all stakeholders, industry partners, whoever, to their time. We will do what has never been done in the world earlier. Starting in March, April 17, we will deliver the train before I retire. That gives you 21 months. And to make sure that everyone remembers that the train is going out in calendar year 2018, let's give it a name. I said that we'll call it Train 18, a train which will be out in 2018. So that was the origin, and work. These little things work. Everyone had a uh, small sticker on a stand or something on their table. It was all about leadership. Not my leadership alone, leadership down the hierarchy of people with fire in their belly handling their leadership position with trust and commitment. You are
Sorry,
mute.
very interesting point that you're bringing, and I think it is a beautiful segue to the next section of the conversation, which is it is one thing to have conviction as a leader.
Yeah.
It is other to have the same vision and conviction translated to the people. Now, we are also talking about times when there is a lot of debate in general about loyalty, in general about career longevity, etc. Now, maybe railways may not fall under that category, but more and more, if you really look at sector and industry today, now you spoke about people who you admired, who you followed, but that's something that is missing and lacking in generation today. Like I think the youngsters may not really find people who they would admire and follow. So there is a lack of leadership. What, in your view, is a reason for that, and what is it something that we can learn from the experiences that you have had?
So I'll make a little difference between private sector and government because the animals are different.
Yes.
Private sector has to look at bottom line. Government doesn't have a bottom line. The government has to deliver for people's good, for country's good, without bothering for a bottom line. We are even more fortunate today that in spite of railways doing very poorly financially, it's a separate subject. Huge support from government of India because it believes that it's not railways finances alone which matter in isolation. It's the country's infrastructure development, country's economy, pumping money in infrastructure, especially particularly railways, brings in manufacturing, brings in more services, gets government more tax revenue, generates more employment, and so on. So investment is not a problem. Money is not a problem. It used to be, but now, I mean, I always say that I'm so unfortunate that this kind of regime had not come. It had started, but had not fully come like it has today. So you have this responsibility to now spend this money constructively, and you don't have a bottom line, right? So the way you go about it in private sector and public sector or government is a little. Public sector still has a bottom line. In government is a little different. So you have to take that national objective in mind. You can't just go into whether this train is going to earn money or not. Is this train required for the country?
Yeah.
Answer that question. Then things take off from there. Modern trains are there everywhere, such a large network, except if you go to USA or Australia, maybe everyone has even high-speed trains. Coming to railways specifically, I think the leadership, iconic leadership examples, perhaps from private sector, perhaps need something different. You have to look at the market differently. So I'm not even an expert. I only consult for private companies. I'll not even go there. But in a government setup, what is important is the expertise exists, thankfully, from the British time. Fortunately, even which you said in the beginning, there's still a large group of railwaymen who have that inherent pride in their organization. In what they do. It's not about whatever little you do in railways, it's not about that little job. It is the larger impact of what you do in terms of what railways achieve. So that exists. What doesn't exist is a good culture. It was a culture, as I said, designed for subjugation. It was not a culture designed for delivery in terms of what I'm saying. So first thing, how do you break that wall between those who administer and those who don't? It's actually much simpler than one thing. All you need, a leader has to do is shed their ego. It's all about empathy. Basically, it's empathy. Before you react to a situation, do you put yourself in somebody else's shoes and then react? We don't.
Yeah.
Once you start doing it and make it a habit, the dividends are far too many.
Yeah.
So my second in command said, okay, you have this idea, you're going to spend a lot of money, which I said, yes, 0.5% is mine, and you've not invested. I'm going to invest in facilities and so on, in colonies, apart from factory, in colonies, community centers, and so on. So they said, okay, you have nice ideas, you better keep away from production and try your thing and so on. So I would just take a walk and, meet maybe 300, 400 workers in one walk in the two divisions of ICF. And the GM fellow is a ceremonial fellow. He goes to the factory to cut ribbons or sit on a dais, get garlanded or get a bouquet or something. Nobody knows it. I would go and say, I'm such and such, your GM, any problem? Now, I was told in industrial setup with 300 workers, you're asking this stupid question. But believe me, 99% of the time, answer was no problem, sir, with a smile. As simple as that. Right? So this was about breaking that wall. These things have large impact. I'm not saying that they galvanized everyone into building the train. The core team was different, but this is about how you change culture. Culture is very important. I have been trying to study the subject. I mean, which are the organizations which have done exceptionally well in India? ISRO, to some extent DRL in Hyderabad, the Akash fame, NDDB, Dr. Kurian's baby, Mr. Patel's baby, in Anand. Today, Amul, as you know, is a household name, now exporting. After retirement, I visited these places to actually, they invited me to talk. I went there to learn what is it that makes it different. They also have bureaucracy, maybe not as much as railways, but still they are a bureaucratic setup. It's all about organizational culture. A culture not written in mission statements or displays on walls, but a culture
How you practice it.
Of legacy, how you practice it, left over and taught by example by leaders like Abdul Kalam or Sarabhai or Dr. Kurian. That is still living and breathing there.
Yeah.
And that can only be set up by certain iconic leaders. And second, I'll also say about trust.
Yeah.
So when Indians started coming to position of power, they were not to be trusted inherently. Of course. Yeah. So they were put through a web of, rules, regulations, audit, vigilance, and so on. A system designed for Indians on distrust and mistrust. It has not taken us far. We have not shed it. And they say that if you give more the trust, people will make money. They are making money in any case. If you give that trust, at every leadership position, people want to do things. If you give that trust, things will get done. Some people may misuse it for corrupt ways, but largely a lot of things will be done. And that we practice that. Actually practice that. Trust in leadership. Somebody who's in a leadership position, I'm not talking about myself, I'm down there, has complete trust of the organization. It can work wonders.
I was just reflecting on this, and every time you go through an airport, you would go through showing your boarding passes at least 6 to 7 times. It speaks about the lack of trust in the system.
Absolutely. There was a time when boarding card used to be stamped.
Correct.
I mean, it's only 10 years or so that has stopped. But this was the stage.
Yeah.
Even today, when you, let alone what you do earlier, with Digi Yatra, it has become till the
easier.
Gate. But at the gate, there's somebody seeing it 3 times.
Yeah.
One at the desk, then in the chute itself, and then right at the gate with 6, 7 of them.
One of the things that is a very interesting point that you made was about culture. And when we look at the middle management in general today, also, and it may be different in the government space, but it could be very different in the corporate world as well. The ability to inspire is a rare phenomenon today.
Yeah.
When you talk to them a little deeper and try to understand what is the reason, one of the biggest things that is coming up is the fear of failure, right? Now, there could be some history to it, or there could be some research done to see if there is something to do with the self-belief structure that we all carry as Indians. But you ran through your 22, 24 months of the journey from 2016 to 2018 under a lot of skepticism that existed as part of the system,
Yeah.
right? At any point of time, did the idea cross your mind of what would happen if this project failed? And I'm asking you this question with a view that what would a leader listening to this podcast, maybe in the mid 30s, mid 40s, learn about how to deal with failures, or even the thought that comes, like, what if I fail? What could they learn from this?
If through your failure you're causing a severe dent on the bottom line,
Yeah.
you have to be a little more careful and perhaps even skeptical. It's not that this can't be overcome, but I'll leave it aside for the time. You see, the government is the key in any nation's progress, like it or not. They have the money, they are the spender. Unfortunately, they get into governance of things they should not govern.
Yeah.
But they have the money, wherewithal to incentivize the private sector. They have the to actually move the nation. You can't walk away from this. This is a fact. There's no point blaming the private sector for not doing R&D, which may be true, but it has to start with government. But look at the fortune. While you can get punished or victimized for whatever reason, because of your personal enmity, because people don't like it, you are working in a situation where you have money and there's no bottom line. If what can be more ideal for somebody to deliver things which, in their view, they think that it's good for the country? Largely, there's no institutional reprisal because of wasting money.
Sure.
As I said, vigilance, other things are separate. They can happen to you even if you don't spend that much money.
Yeah.
Now, in such a situation, you will have doubts. Your team will have doubts. If you are in a leader and you have doubts, then your team will have multiple doubts. The solution is only, as I said, to be true to yourself. To be true in the sense that to be able to say that I am doing the best possible given the situation. Where I have doubts, I can learn from people, but given the situation, I am not a superman. I am going to do whatever best is possible. And therefore, if I am doing whatever is best is possible, not to think about failure at all. Failures may happen. But if you think about failures and if you inculcate the doubt, it is contagious, and then the project is gone because leaders' doubt will percolate to the lowest below, and then you are gone. That's the biggest mistake leaders make. Even in a very dismal situation, you don't have to express that doubt. Being careful, being circumspect is one thing, but expressing doubt is... Yes, of course there were doubts, but we never lived in the doubt. We lived in doing what, I'm not saying hope, we lived in whatever best is possible to be done.
Yeah. Sure. Dr. Mani, I would like to move to the part where I think it's important for us to not miss the point about India 2047. There are a lot of organizations that talk about Mission 2035, and the government of India, of course, has India 2047 vision as well. Often, in the general context of the conversations, people think, oh, it's too far away, and why should I bother about that today? It's not for me to worry about as a citizen. I mean, it's government's job. Now, I believe that each one of us has a role to play in that. And each one of us have to do something different to be able to get there. Now, the 2047 or not could be a debatable date. I mean, it could be anything for that matter. But what is it that you would say to people listening into you who could be starting their careers wherever, or even in their mid-careers, about the contributions that are needed to be made to achieve that vision? And why is it so important to have that?
A country emerging from those shadows and trying to gain a rightful global footprint, a place in the comity of nations, yes, that's going to happen. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. 2047 or 2055 or 2040, whatever. It's not a question of if anymore. That said, Once again, I mean, yeah, it would look like I'm parroting the same thing, but individuals, of course, have to try their best. I'll not go beyond that. Individuals have to have hope, have to have a belief, and have to try their best. As simple as that. Criticism, cynicism is fine, but that should not consume you. That it's as simple as that. But for government, has to show much more acumen, much more commitment, much more sincerity than making a slogan. I'm saying it very responsibly. For
Sure.
government, it's all a slogan right now, unfortunately. Uh, I'll give you a couple of examples.
Sure.
Now, what do you mean by a developed country? They're talking about GDP per capita, or are you talking of something more meaningful? Maybe a country with just at the threshold of the GDP per capita. But there are things more important. Let me take railways. How do poor people travel today? They are paying perhaps the lowest level of fare in the world. And railways have a mindset that these guys pay this much, so they should travel like cattle. Are they not Indians? Okay, they don't have money in their pocket. If India is going to be developed, I'm sure they're going to have money in their pocket. Otherwise, how would we be developed? So let them pay the right fare at that stage. But meanwhile, is it not our responsibility to carry them like human beings? It's not about comfort. Comfort comes later. What about dignity? They travel standing in corridors or even standing in the toilets.
Yeah.
And that's not being corrected. How can you be a developed country? Isn't it the first thing you have to tackle? It will cost you more money to carry them with dignity, but that, to my mind, is more important. Uh, Today, as the creator of Vande, so-called, I don't call it world class, so-called near world class train. I really don't call it world class because it is not world class. It is just an attempt to reach there. A so-called luxurious train, creator of that train, charge people more. If they're not willing to pay, don't run the train there. In Kerala, they'll pay more because the occupation is above 150%. So there are pockets where people are willing to pay. Don't be politically motivated to introduce it, say, between Lucknow and Prayagraj, which I traveled, the only time I've traveled, 25% occupation. So earn money from them, but look after the poor traveler. Tomorrow, when they have money, they have to pay. That's one side. Larger picture, you have to have high-speed trains. So one you decided rightfully by this government, it was debate earlier, but 15 years off, 15 onward, 10 years gone, another 5 years. That's not the pace of development that will take you there. You have to be more committed, maybe 2, 3 more corridors. Chennai, Bangalore, for example, do it really fast, kill the air traffic between the two cities. Why kill air traffic? Air is 10 times, 8 to 10 times more polluting than rail. Road is 8 to 10 times more polluting than rail. So high-speed corridors. Then existing track, upgrade them so that both freight and slower passenger trains run at the same speed. There's no differential. So average speed goes up. In spite of spending so much money, somehow the stress is on building edifices and grand stations and so on. Whereas stations are not like airports. They are there only for you to get into there in time, board a train, get off, and you don't want a waiting area. I mean, there has to be a waiting area
Sure.
theoretically, but it's not an airport where you have to wait for an hour and take coffee or even take snacks. You should come to a railway station ready to board a train. It should run in time and you board and you're off. These are little examples where the government has to change focus. Otherwise, and stress on freight, carriage of freight by railways. I said 8
Which
to
is still
10
not
times.
happening.
8 to 10 times cleaner, but the share of rail in freight logistics is going down. It's come to as low as 25%, what used to be 85, 90% at independence, is going down by 1% every year. Look after these things, without which you will not be, slogans will not make you a developed country. And last, we are in a situation where China was perhaps in early 2000s.
Yeah.
All right. Japan was maybe 180 years back. So this is a time where you have reached a stage where you have to have your own product. Nobody says Chinese mall today. It used to be 20 years back, shoddy goods. Nobody says that. They are making one of the best products in the world now. That's what they have achieved in 25, 30 years. Are we on a trajectory to do that? I don't think so. Unless that mindset, that rewarding innovation, and we have a large market, and
Yeah.
exports can happen. This market has to be leveraged to reward that innovation. And once again, since government is the spender, you have to give them a not a level playing field with imported components, with a field skewed in their favor,
Yeah.
so that their risks are covered. Only government can recover that risk. Let them flower. Let innovations flower. It's all about, you're talking of startups, 100 startups who make something, but how many of them really take off?
Yeah.
It's the environment, the ecosystem, and government has to step in. I keep saying this, I keep parroting it because government has to do it. So, to cut a long story short, anybody other than government, yes, have that belief. It will happen. It may take time, but have that belief. That's all I can say. But those in any way connected with government, it's your responsibility to make it happen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mani. Before we end, I had a short rapid fire, if that is okay with you. One way that defines Indian Railways. One word that defines Indian Railways.
Leveler. Even today, with all the airport bus stations and swanky airport bus stations, even today, because of sheer reach, the richest to the poorest stand next to each other to catch the same train. It's not happening in airport, not happening in bus stations.
Very true. Very true. A leadership trait you had to unlearn through your journey.
I can talk about love and empathy and so on. Everyone is, besotted by some vanity or ego. I may lecture about it, but I am not able to fully shed it. More you can shed your vanity because it's ephemeral. It has no value at all. Shedding vanity will actually give you more reasons to be vain and arrogant. Shedding vanity as much as possible.
Sure, sure. Indigenous innovation, is it a mindset or a policy?
More policy. Support does not exist.
Does not
Very,
exist.
very little support. So that's right. Of course, it's mindset. But in today's India, it is more policy, more government action, more government support.
The toughest conversation you had during your Train 18 journey?
I'm setting aside little everyday so-called tete-a-tete with more deliveries and so on and so forth. So this one makes me think. The first conversation, so in which I failed. So was when we were in that period, August 16 to till we got the sanction, March 17. There was a conversation with a group of people in railway board when our proposal was being debated. I've written it in my book. There were all kinds of, if I can call, vague, stupid questions. And it was a tough job not to get agitated. And I perhaps did get agitated. That's why I said shedding that vanity is important. I have listed them in my book.
Sure.
One would be amazed at those stupid questions. Basically with a mindset to somehow derail the project. It was quite tough handling that. And we failed to convince them also, in spite of trying our best, me and my team members, not to get agitated or lose our temper. Remembering, yes, that I remember coming back from there and almost feeling as if it's not going to happen, which it didn't happen, of course, till we had the blessings of this chairman.
One sentence to a young engineer entering public service today.
Don't start living in your dream, but don't let that dream die. Let it linger. You will get in public service an opportunity to realize it. And when you do, remember these wonderful words of AP. The dream is not the thing that you see in sleep, but is that thing that doesn't let you sleep. And then move ahead with empathy and leadership.
Wonderful. Well, I at Career Shifts, or we rather, believe that Career Shifts is about dream, dare, and do. So while you can dream, daring and doing is the most important part that one needs to keep following. And that's the only way you can reinvent yourself. Dr. Mani, thank you very much for joining the show. It was indeed a great journey to listen to your stories, listen to the challenges, listen to some of the leadership snippets, the moments of doubt, the moments of, even believes that it may not happen, and how you overcame that. And actually, the train 18 happened. Looking at the recent news of, the sleeper also coming out, do you have any reflections on how that feels?
Oh, yes. Not very complimentary to Indian Railways. We knew this is going to be, it's an expensive train, so the fare is going to be more expensive. As I said, beyond the point, which in my assessment at that stage was 40, 50 trains, replacing Shatabdi. And you may not find a clientele between two cities in a day train mode to pay higher fare. And therefore, your occupation level would start dropping after you build 35, 40 trains, which happened actually. Today, there are maybe 100 rakes, all 150 services, or at least 40, 50 of them have poor occupancy, rest are good. So maybe the number was not 40 services, but 50 services, whatever. So what do you do after that? You have to have a sleeper version, which would make overnight travel with comfort. So say Delhi, Mumbai, Delhi, Howrah, which takes 16, 17 hours today. No, 16, 17 by Rajdhani. Try to make it 13, 14 with, or ideally 13, start at 7 o'clock, reach there at 8 o'clock in the morning, then the whole day is not wasted. Today it starts at 5, so you have to need that. And the scope for that is much more than day train. So we had started work. And you see, it's 20% more additional work.
Yeah, true.
Everything is almost same. It's the interior. We started work when the train 18 project itself hit roadblocks for reasons we not go into, vigilance and all that. So this also got abandoned. What should have been turned out by end 2019 has finally been turned out in
7 years
January 2026. So a good thing, better late than never. Der aaye, durust aaye. But we have lost 5, 6 years. So it has happiness, which is tempered with this disappointment as well. But looking at future, yes, it's going to change things. And it has more scope than the day train. So I should say that this should help in proliferation. Coupled with this regret that the fastest train today, you'll be surprised, the fastest Vande Bharat is the first one. Delhi, the average speed is 96. None of the Vande Bharat, including Delhi, Bhopal, which goes on the fastest track in India, 160 kilometers, has been able to touch that average speed.
Wow.
That's another thing which has to be worked. There sanctions work is going on to upgrade all track, but it's so slow. It has less optics. Trains have optics, unfortunately. And we are living in days where hype and optics matter more than substance. But nevertheless, a good step. And we look forward to more proliferation.
Absolutely. I've traveled across the world. I have sat through trains which have been ultra super fast, like 280, 290 kilometers per hour. One thing I felt proud about the fact, and I guess it's also to do with the demography that we live in, we have a young population and younger infra compared to some of the Western developed countries, which I think should allow us to proliferate this a lot more. And there is also the desire, the young aspirational Indian always desires for better services. So I guess if the both come together, we will see more of this. And it is with that hope, I would like to, sign off this conversation. It was wonderful talking to you. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.